Having an agreed upon definition of terms is the most important thing about communication. Words have to mean the same thing regardless of who's using them. There can't be an evolving definition of terms that fluctuates between users. It has to be static, it has to be consistent. Without it, there's confusion, the inability for us to understand each other. Now that seems to be obvious, but now more than ever, there needs to be a universal understanding of the word woke, because we can't seem to agree on what it means. So today, for the 192nd chapter of the Layman's Journal, for the sake of clarity, I'll attempt to define what I mean when I call something woke, specifically in regards to entertainment media, as I've alluded to these concepts in previous videos, but I thought it would be useful for me to create a singular video as a reference point, and hopefully it'll be a description that we can all agree on. So, let's get it. The definition of woke largely depends on who you ask. To the left, it means being socially conscious, socially aware. It simply means that minority groups exist, they have unique perspective and experiences, and celebrating those differences by casting them within projects to reflect the browning of American culture. Now on the surface that sounds nice. You're giving opportunities to people of different backgrounds to be more inclusive, to resemble the world we live in today. But with all things coming from the left, that's just the selling point, or the optimistic intent. That's not actually what it is. More on that later. To the right, it's an overly used ad hominem attack against anything they don't like, especially if that thing includes brown people, women, or those within the alternative lifestyle community. Some will even go as far as to count the number of brown, female, and alternative people that are good guys compared to the number of white guys that are bad. Yeah, it's gotten that trivial. But it's all based on a pre-existing hatred of everything that comes out of Hollywood. But both sides get it wrong. Race and gender inclusion isn't always necessary. A film, TV show, or character isn't automatically made better simply because a woman, person of color, or non-hetero person was cast. Take Corlys Velaryon, for example. Him being cast as a black man didn't add value to the House of the Dragon. The character was no more interesting than if he were white, nor did his presence alone add complexity to the plot, nor was there any commercial or financial gain. The Game of Thrones cinematic universe was already enjoying a massive black following prior to his casting. And for my people on the right, having too many brown people doesn't hurt a movie or television show either. And simply having them there doesn't automatically make them woke. Oscar Martinez from The Office is a great example of this. He's a gay Hispanic man, but by no means did his presence harm the quality of the show. The overall narrative or plot wasn't altered by his presence, and by no means was The Office considered a woke show. To the contrary, by today's standards, it would be deemed unfit to air, as many of the things they discussed on the show would be deemed too offensive for modern audiences. So being woke is more than the superficial understanding of those on the left or the right. There are three primary components to being woke. Number one, woke is about checking boxes. Having diversity for the sake of diversity even though it doesn't make sense. Adding persons of color, women, or those within the alternative lifestyle to a setting that they would not naturally exist in. Going back to Corlys Velaryon being cast as a black man in the House of the Dragon. That show is rooted in European lore that takes place during the Renaissance period. And Corlys Velaryon was the wealthiest lord of his day. He had a wealth that even exceeded that of the king. And while I'm sure there were some black people living in the Renaissance period of Europe, a black man wouldn't rise to that position of power during that time, not within that culture. Seeing something that unrealistic, even in a show that includes dragons, looks ridiculous, because the audience knows it was done to check a box, to appease a diversity quota, to make non-whites feel represented, in a show based on a culture that has nothing to do with them. Number two, woke inclusion is done for the purpose of pushing a social or political agenda. It's when a character that isn't white, male, or hetero is cast for the explicit purpose of advancing an agenda. Sam Wilson's character in The Captain and the Winter Soldier is an excellent example of this. You see, Phase 4 of the MCU was the woke phase of the MCU, the browning of the MCU, which on the surface I have no problem with. I like seeing superheroes that look like me. But what I didn't like is how Sam Wilson, the black Captain America, was used as a political pawn. On the surface, the show was about him fighting against a group of radicalized refugees called the Flag Smashers that were essentially terrorists, but the show humanizes them as poor minorities simply looking for a place to live. You see, after Thanos snapped away half the population, life went on, and people from poor countries moved into the areas vacated by those who were snapped away, filling the jobs and the homes that they left behind. But later, when the Avengers defeated Thanos, bringing back everyone who was snapped away, the people that were living in their homes, working their older jobs in their absence, had no place to go. And governments banded together and forced them out of those jobs and those homes, meaning they were displaced. They became refugees living in poverty in settlement camps. This led to them turning to terrorism to fight against governments that were displacing them. So the underlying theme or subliminal political messaging of the show is immigration, open borders, how wealthy Western countries, specifically the politicians, should have policies to embrace poor people from third world countries regardless of how it might affect their own citizens.
Sam, thank you so much. From all of us.
Sincerely, you did your part in dealing with those terrorists, now we'll do ours. Are you still going forward with resetting the borders?
Our peacekeeping troops will begin relocating people soon. The terrorists only set us back a bit.
You have to stop calling them terrorists. What else would we call them? Your peacekeeping troops carrying weapons are forcing millions of people into settlements around the world, right? What do you think those people are going to call you? These labels, terrorist, refugee, thug, they're often used to get around the question why.
Those settlements that happened 5 years ago, do you think it is fair for governments to have to support them?
Yes. And the people who reappeared only to find someone else living in their family home, they just end up homeless? Look, I get it, but you have no idea how complicated this situation is. This isn't about easy decisions, Senator. You just don't understand. I'm a black man carrying the stars and stripes. What don't I understand? The only power I have is that I believe we can do better. You control the banks. Shit, you can move borders. You can knock down a forest with the email. You can feed 1 million people with a phone call. But the question is, who's in the room with you when you're making those decisions? Is it the people you're going to impact? Or is it just more people like you? I mean, this girl died trying to stop you. And no one has stopped for 1 second to ask why. You've got to do better, Senator. You've got to step up. Because if you don't, the next Carly will. And you don't want to see 2.0. People believed in her cause so much that they helped her defy the strongest governments in the world. Why do you think that is? Look, you people have just as much power as an insane god or a misguided teenager. The question you have to ask yourself is, how are you going to use it?
And so there you see how Sam Wilson, the Black Captain America, was used as a mascot for open borders. And that pissed me off for several reasons because I am an American black man. And I can tell you, we have our own problems unique to our own experiences. And it angers me every day that our struggles are ignored because the black community focuses on the advancement of women. We, even though we're black, are not included. And here you have Hollywood creating a black man to fight someone else's battle, as if we don't have our own problems. Because I know how hard it is to get a politician to pay attention, and no black man is going to use that moment to advocate for some other group, because minorities are not a unified monolith. Again, we have our own unique experiences and issues that we're struggling with. Now, I know I mentioned him a lot because I'm a huge fan of his work, but Dr. Tiasan Johnson created a website called The Black Male Political Agenda. And the entire thing was written by black men who follow his channel. And nowhere on that website do you see us talking about open borders, any issues for that matter outside of the ones that affect us. And I don't mean that as a slight or a dig against migrant people, but we've got our own problems. And that entire show, specifically that moment, was bull. Again, it pisses me off because I know it was some white, self-loathing liberal who wrote it. They're always trying to use us as pawns for their political causes, putting us all in the same group and telling us what we should be worried about, as if we're too stupid to know what our own problems are. Anyway, number 3.
I am woman, hear me roar, in numbers too big to ignore.
The woke agenda within entertainment media is often promoted at the expense of the narrative. An example of this would be the Mary Sue effect. It's when a plot or a movie or television show is disrupted by the need to exalt women over men. And we see this in the She-Hulk, Attorney at Law. You see, the story of the original Hulk, Bruce Banner, is a tragic one. It's the story of a kind man, a scientist, who turns into an uncontrollable weapon of mass destruction. That he, for the safety of humanity, was forced to live a life of isolation, which led to depression and attempts of self-deletion.
Romanoff, would you escort Dr. Banner back to his room?
Where? You rented my room.
The cell was just
in case you needed to kill me, but you can't. I know, I tried. I got low. I didn't see an end, so I put a bullet in my mouth and the other guy spit it out.
But then the She-Hulk comes along and trivializes his entire story.
It's not one or the other, Jen. I am trying to show you that we can live between what we want and what is. But we can't pretend like we are two of the few people on Earth that can actually protect her, which is why we have to make sure of your ability to tolerate distress and regulate your emotions, especially your anger.
Well, here's the thing, Bruce. I'm great at controlling my anger. I do it all the time. When I'm catcalled in the street, when incompetent men explain my own area of expertise to me, I do it pretty much every day, because if I don't, I will get called emotional or difficult, or I might just literally get. So I'm an expert at controlling my anger because I do it infinitely more than you. So all of this just feels like projecting a lot of onto me.
See.
No, I'm doing this.
Okay, this is completely new territory.
You guys have outgrown your binder, cuz. Love you, Bruce, but I'm going home.
So in that moment, we see his tragedies, his struggles, his loneliness, isolation, and depression are trivialized so this woman can look strong, so this woman can look superior to him. His narrative is crushed so hers can be established, because it can't be that bad if she can control it within a few moments. It's the whole gender equality, gender superiority argument, that anything a man can do, a woman can do better. So being woke is more than just inclusion. It's more than counting who isn't white, male, or hetero. It's where, why, and what they're doing. Where's the minority character being placed? Why are they being put there? And what are they doing? How are they being used? Those are the things you have to consider before you declare anything being woke. So I'm going to end things right here, but before I go, follow me on my other social media platforms, and if you like this video, please share the link on your social media platforms. That more than anything would be a huge help in getting the word out. But most importantly, check out the other videos in my library, as I'm sure there's something there you'll enjoy. Here's a preview of my latest work. Every man has a simp story, or what we call an RP moment. It's a time when he's forced to accept the true nature of a modern woman. I have several of those moments, and as life goes on, I'll have several more, because I'm hard-headed like that. But the one I'm going to share with you today is one that many men have experienced. It's about falling in love with a woman that turned out to be a 304. It was my freshman year of college, and I met this beautiful young woman. We'll call her Sarah for legal purposes. And Sarah was racially androgynous. Her mother was biracial, half black, half white, and her father was Indian or South Asian. She had long, beautiful hair, down past her shoulders with loose curls, and she was natural. There was no weave or wig or extensions in her hair. Her skin complexion was light brown, and she had hazel-colored eyes, and she rarely wore makeup. There was no need for it. On a scale of 1 to 10, I say she was easily an 8, maybe even a 9. I had known Sarah for about 3 months, but at the time that I met her, I was dating someone else. We eventually broke up, and immediately I started pursuing her. Sarah, that is, and she was receptive. But we never got beyond the talking stage of the relationship, so we weren't really dating. But we were more than just friends. We hung out with each other regularly, and we were open about our mutual interest. We'd go to lunch together, dinner together. This was all on campus, of course, and we did it every day. You see, I met Sarah at church, where we'd attend twice a week. So in my mind, she was a good, clean Christian woman. And on weekends, we hang out together and watch movies. And she had been to my dorm many times. But again, we were good Christians. There was no fornication between us, not even kissing or making out, because we were saving it for marriage. Well, at least I was. More on that later. But everyone on campus campus knew I was talking to her because they always saw me with her. This had been going on for about 2 weeks, until one day I didn't see her, which was odd because I saw her every day. I hung out with her every day. And keep in mind, we were friends for about 3 months before we were talking, but I didn't think about it until a couple days passed. Then I started to worry, and finally a mutual friend told me that Sarah had dropped out of school, and she was staying with family off campus because she had been violated by members of a popular fraternity on campus. Now, I won't go into detail on what specifically happened, but they allegedly put something in her drink and they ran a choo-choo on her. At least 8 guys in total, I was told. It was a group activity. As you can imagine, that is a horrible thing to hear about a woman that you're pursuing a relationship with. But the next day the truth came out. The group session with the frets did happen, but she wasn't forced to do it. It was consensual. She was paid for her time. You see, she did the same thing in my dormitory with 5 other gentlemen who paid her $20 each. And apparently everyone in my dorm knew about it, including my roommate, who knew I was talking to Sarah. So I was the only one kept in the dark. Now, the reason she claimed she was violated by the frat boys is because word had gotten out and she was embarrassed. People were openly talking about her, and apparently she was well known for this. You see, she was a transfer student. She attended school at the neighboring university adjacent to my college, and she had been doing the same thing over there, which is why she transferred, to escape the ridicule and the rumors. So not only did everyone on my campus know, but everyone in the neighboring campus knew as well, except for me. My dumbass was trying to date her while practicing abstinence. This woman racked up 13 bodies in 1 week on my watch, and I had no clue. I thought she was a virgin. That's all I have to say about it. What do you have to say about it? Leave a comment in the comment section and let's have a conversation. Okay, so you've heard me say this a million times. So if you like this video, please give it a like and leave a comment in the comments section and share the link on your social media platforms. And if you are new to my channel, please subscribe and turn on that notification bell. That way you'll get alerts every time I upload new content. This is the Layman's Journal. Thanks for stopping by. I'm out.
Hell! Shut up! Shut up! Shut up!
And while I do appreciate you sharing, subbing, and leaving comments, I'm going to ask that you take another step further in keeping the channel going. I set up a membership plan for those of you who would like to offer further support in the development of this channel. It's not anything expensive or special. I'm just asking for 99 cents a month, which is enough for me to continue doing the work that I do here.
Help me! Help me! Help me!
In the future, there will be additional tiers with added benefits, but for right now, I just need your support so that I can cover basic costs. So please, sign up so I can continue bringing you awesome content. This is the Layman's Journal. I'm out.